name's Martha Hayes. I'm here with Laura Palzinski, and we're here at the AHDB building at Stoney Park with Ben Williams from EU Pig. Ben, please could you tell us what your thematic network is?
Yep, so EU Pig is a consortium of pig industry bodies, be they research, be they industry-based, or industry representative bodies like AHDB, so farmer-facing groups. And together we're aiming to identify 8 challenges per year that the industry faces, and then through that consortium network of regional partners in each country, identify farmers and innovators who are trying to address those challenges, i.e. they've got a solution. We run that through a Grand Prix, competition type format, and at the end of that the regional partners vote for which ambassador is going to present their challenge to the industry, and we produce dissemination materials from that material.
Okay, and when did it begin and when will it finish?
So it came together or started in 2016, really kicked off in 2017 as a formal project, and it will end next year in 2020. So we'll have had 4 years in total.
And thinking about what it actually hopes to achieve, can you tell us what it's achieved so far in the years it has been running for?
Yep, so obviously 3 years in, we've identified 24 ambassadors, each addressing a separate challenge that has been key to the industry, everything from antimicrobial resistance all the way through to how to finish a more consistent pig, how to address the challenges of consumer and producer relationships, and then a whole host of things in between. Some of them have been extremely novel, so use of particular feed additives to challenge replacement of zinc in diets, and some of them have been incredibly simplistic, yet the application of that simple technology is the sort of application you think, why didn't we think of it before? So simple rotation of enrichment materials through a pen using a chain system, so you don't have to go into each pen and move it around, suddenly makes enrichment less of a, have I time and money for this, and more of a, this is just something I do type activity. So it's been really interesting to bring lots and lots of different insights together. We've got quite a well-rounded website. Each of those 24 case studies has translated materials now in native languages. We've got fact sheets that can be printed out for the farmers. In a lot of cases we've got video tours as well. So we've got a really nice bank of knowledge that's in the process of being disseminated out, but actually could go that much further.
Going back to, you mentioned Pig Grand Prix, how did that really work?
So we, as a consortium, we go out to our regional partners and we suggest the challenge, or we ask them to suggest the challenges that they're facing. So they'll put in all sorts of challenges, as I said, from antimicrobials. This year in particular, African swine fever is big on the pig horizon, and constantly this need for producers to be more in touch with their customer base. They're almost continual focuses, but we have lots of different ways of looking at it. They all come into a central repository, i.e. me. We sort of group them based on themes, and then we put them back out to the regional network, and they vote on which ones are going to be most impactful across Europe, because obviously in some countries the production is markedly different to others. So we reach this consensus. We then go out through our networks and we try and find those producers. There's a lot of sort of behind the scenes, do you know anybody who's doing this with antimicrobials, or do you know anybody who's doing this around improving the saleability of traditional breeds? Once we've got those challenges, they go onto a central portal, and there's an entry form, and the entry form contains all sorts of information like, the nature of the business, how the challenge has been addressed. The cost-benefit analysis has been really key to us. There's no point coming up with an idea if it doesn't pay. Those again are voted regionally, so every country votes for their top 5, and they rank them according to which ones they like the most, 1 to 5, and the highest scoring challenge or solution to a challenge becomes the ambassador. And then we go and we do a more in-depth case study on that, including the video tours and interviews, and then all of the materials drop out. We also then have a technical report for each challenge area, so that gives a bit more scientific study and a bit more depth behind it as well.
That sounds a really, really interesting idea. Is that something that you will do again next year, or is that overall just for this year?
No, so this has run 3 years in a row, and obviously we're literally just starting the process now. So we've ratified our challenges, we've 8 new challenges, they've gone out to the industry, and we're currently looking for entrants to that Grand Prix, so across Europe. So in the UK we're obviously approaching people within our network, and again it's everything from how we tackle African swine fever, should it potentially hit us, or how do we avoid it, all the way through to, I mentioned earlier, sort of actually making rare breeds a viable product in the market.
How did you generate that interest from end users to actually get involved in the Grand Prix?
A lot of it has been reliant on that traditional network within countries. So the original consortium partners, when approached, were some of the big traditional movers and shakers within the pig industries in each of their areas. So AHDB obviously has a long history back through BPEX as being a sort of a pig industry body. And the same will be reflected in other countries. So if we look at our Dutch partners, then ZLTO is the AHDB equivalent, and then we have Wageningen University as well in that country. So in the UK we've got AFB. So it's not reinvented the wheel, if I'm being honest with you. It's not old boys network, but it's very much a case of who do you know, let's go out and approach. I think it's probably one of the areas coming into this as a coordinator halfway through this project I'd have liked to have explored more at the start. You know, how do we go beyond the original? So what we have recently developed is something called a pig innovation network. So we've gone out to what we'd call key influencers within the UK. So rather than just going through the traditional old boys network, although there is a little bit of crossover, we've deliberately tried to identify those people who are relatively innovative or groundbreaking within nutrition, within veterinary, within research, so on and so forth. We've invited them in, and we actually use those as a bit of a sense check for our Grand Prix entries.
Wow, okay, that's really, really interesting. I'm thinking about this response from the end users. Do you think maybe Eurachnos could help to further engage a wider audience who may be interested in competitions such as this, and also the EU Pig platform as a whole?
Yeah, I think that's probably the big challenge that almost any project has, moving from what is a knowledge repository into a user interface or a destination of some type. With EU Pig at the moment, I definitely say we're at the knowledge repository phase, and we have some traffic moving through our website and we're able to signpost to it, but there needs to be some sort of input, and I think EU Pig has run its course to a certain degree, and this is perhaps where we're looking towards projects like Eurachnos, of how we take that knowledge library, for want of a better phrase, and turn it into a true dissemination vehicle, almost like a destination for people to come to because they need specific requirements or it inspires them to visit. And I think there's a big comms piece there. There's almost 2 parts, isn't there? 1, let's make this worth coming to, and then 2, let's signpost it better. Because that's the one thing that I think with EU Pig, although we've tried, there's only so much money in the budget.
So what would you say your main challenges have been in trying to disseminate those results? Is it the lack of funding and signposting?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I came into this as a coordinator about 18 months into its project life. So I could sort of be a critical friend. You know, I very much admire the project and the setup, but obviously I can say if it was me I could do it differently, because I probably would have done. And I think when the project was set up there was a huge amount of focus and influence on gaining these Grand Prix entries, which i.e. are case studies. So we've built a really lovely knowledge database, but there was no real money or time clearly allocated to directly routing that knowledge to people, or people to that knowledge. So in terms of dissemination, again, that's very much relied on very traditional things done in country. There's been no uniform way of doing it. So the UK, we've brought speakers from those Grand Prix entries over to the UK. We've done lots of stuff in the press, and we've really tried to disseminate. Other countries that don't have that AHDB budget, because we have dipped into our funds for that, obviously don't have that resource. And I think that time and money should have been put to some sort of consistent dissemination task, particularly as the project moved through. So I'd have loved to have seen sort of year 1, 2, possibly year 3 of the Grand Prix, where we gathered this knowledge, and then ideally some of year 3, but definitely all of year 4, looking at concerted dissemination activities. So some major events organised and funded, some major partnerships really embedded, such as with Euracnos, where we could have sort of looked at the longevity of this beyond that sort of one hit. Look, we've got something amazing. Oh no, you've got nowhere to look at it. Look, we've got something amazing. It's going to live on forever in this ongoing work. That's what I'd have liked to have seen.
Yeah. And talking about dissemination, what have been your main methods so far in the project?
So we at AHDB have a network of pig clubs, so we can take out sort of case studies and materials that are relevant. So if there's a pig club topic, particularly tackling antibiotic resistance, then we can take out case study materials to that, and we have done. We had the Pigs Tomorrow event where we had EU pig speakers come over and talk about key relevant topics. So in particular around how we manage tail biting as an industry. So we've done all of that, and then we have the typical sort of press releases. So we have materials in Pig World and Pig Progress and various other sort of web-based resources. But I suppose our main one as a central entity has been the website. Yeah. And there are partners that have sort of mirrored what we've done, and then there are partners that have used a lot of social media. But again, there was a lack of prescription, which in some ways is good, but I think there should almost be a prescriptive minimum, and I think that's what we've lacked as a project from the outset. You know, if we'd had clear goals that we could identify, it certainly would have made my job as a coordinator easier, figuring out what's actually been done. At the moment, we have to go around and ask each individual partner to list every dissemination activity, no matter how large or small, and then estimate its impact. Hugely time consuming.
Great. Just to sum up then, what advice would you offer to upcoming thematic networks?
I think it would be exactly that. It would be look at why are you doing this first and foremost? Are you going to be a knowledge repository, in which case that's fine. Accrue your knowledge, store it in the best, most logistically appropriate way, and do your job. If this is a dissemination project, which obviously the vast majority of things really should be, it's no good just storing knowledge, nobody knows that it exists or where it lives, but actually plan that dissemination in and give it not only appropriate time, which obviously comes then with an apportioned budget, but actually look at the events themselves. There is a cost to this that is often missed, and I think it's really crucial that actually those costs are written in from the start. It's much better to go in with an honest bid saying it's going to cost this much to get it out and then deliver that, rather than going in with a bid saying, oh well, we just need some time to disseminate, but then people going, well, we haven't got the money to actually put on the events to do so. And really, if we're being honest, peer-to-peer events are definitely the way that people tend to want their information, in which case they should be budgeted for from the start.
That's great. Thank you so much for your advice and that insight into EU Pig, Ben. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
The Euracnos project has received funding from the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme under Grant Agreement number 817863.